Had your coffee, Jennifer?
Managed to get mine.
Yeah. Hi everyone. We're just waiting for one more person, the moderator, to join us. We'll start shortly. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please ensure that you are in the right breakout room. This is the social science breakout room. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. Welcome to the 2022 Virtual 3MT National Level Competition Social Science category. My name is Nur Amalina Diana and I will be your MC for the semifinals for the social science category. Before we begin, I have a few friendly housekeeping announcements to make. During the whole program, I would like to seek for everyone's cooperation to give their full attention. For participants joining via Zoom, please be reminded to disable your microphone throughout the event. Should there be any questions, please do write them down in the chat box. For moderator and judges, please pin the playback screen on your Zoom. And please note that all the videos screened today are copyrighted. Any recording or unauthorized sharing of these videos is strictly prohibited. Thank you for your kind attention. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to the moderator and judges for the social science category. The moderator for this room is Professor Dr. Ghazali Daimin from College Seni Creative University Technology Mara, UiTM. The chief judge for the social science category, introducing Professor Dr. Stephen J. Hall, Head, Center for English Language Studies and Dean for School of Interdisciplinary Studies from Sunway University. Our second judge, Mrs. Jennifer Wong, Senior Vice President from Salcam Axiata Berhad, Malaysia. And our third judge is Mr. Charles Mohan, Chief Executive Officer from Institute on Jaafar Volunteer Center. Welcome to all moderator and judges, and thank you for being with us today. Before we begin, I would like to brief everyone of the competition rules. The competition rules include presentations are limited to 3 minutes and competitors exceeding 3 minutes are disqualified. Presentations are considered to have commenced when a presenter starts their presentation through speech. Timing does not include the 3MT title slide and commences from when the competitors are speaking, not the start of the video. A single static slide is permitted in the presentation. This can be previously or cut to for a maximum of 1 minute. The 3-minute audio must be continuous, no sound edits or breaks. No additional props, including costumes, musical instruments, laboratory equipment, and animated backgrounds are permitted within the recording. Presentations are to be spoken words, no poems, raps, or songs. No additional electronic media, sound, and video files are permitted within the video recording. The decision of the adjudicating panel is final. And please note that competitors are not judged on video or recording quality or editing capabilities. Judging will focus on the presentation, ability to communicate research to a non-specialist audience, and the 3MT PowerPoint slide. The judging criteria under the category comprehension and content include presentation must provide clear background and significance to the research question. The presentation must clearly describe the research strategy or design and the results or findings of the research. And it must clearly describe the conclusions, outcomes, and impacts of the research. In terms of engagement and communication, the oration has to be delivered clearly and the language is appropriate for a non-specialist audience. The PowerPoint slide must be well defined and enhance the presentation. And the presenter conveyed enthusiasm for their research and captured and maintained the audience's attention. So the prizes for the winner include the first place winner will bring home 1,500 ringgit for 3 categories, second place 1,000 ringgit for 3 categories, and third place 700 ringgit for 3 categories. So among the participants, 2 participants will bring home 750 euro for the special prize for representative from Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the most exciting part of the event, introducing our first participant for the first round of the social science category, Huang Siwen from University Malaya with the presentation title, Visual Aid for Learning Chinese Vocabulary. Let's have a look.
What comes into your mind when you see the word flag? You might picture a flag in your brain, but it might not work when it comes to Chinese manual learning. The same object is represented by the character qi. You might say, okay, as long as I learn how it is pronounced, I'll know what it is. Well, bad news is that there are lots of homophones in Chinese vocabulary. The pronunciation qi can be a flag, a chest, a fishtail, and writing something. And they're all written in different characters. There are even more homophones when ignoring the terms, and each of them can form a new word. But don't worry. Good news is that the meaningful radical, which is the red part in the character, might help. According to the literature, some scholars believe that understanding of the meaningful radical helps the learner in word recognizing, retrieving, memorizing, and inferencing. On the other hand, some scholars argue that there are some influence in homophone recognition, but not much. Facing with so many homophones, can we make learning Chinese vocabulary easier? And what is the role that meaningful radical plays? So my research is trying to find out the answer by clarifying the link between homophone recognition and meaningful radical. So 3 research questions are raised for my study. 1, will the learners perform better in homophone recognition if they are aware of the meaningful radical? 2, to what extent does the meaningful radical awareness affect the homophone recognition? 3, will this awareness vary if the learners are from different language backgrounds? Data will be collected from the student who learn Chinese as foreign language. They will be asked to take a test to check their knowledge about the meaningful radical and their performance in vocabulary recognition. If the performance score goes up with the knowledge score, that means the meaningful radical could be the visual aid for learning Chinese vocabulary. Nowadays, there are more than 20 million foreign Chinese learners all over the world, and Chinese is used in many countries and communities. That makes it important to find out a solution to facilitate the progress in learning Chinese vocabulary. Hopefully one day, learning Chinese could be easier for you and everyone in the world. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our second participant for the first.
Secretariat, may I ask something?
Yes.
Can the secretariat to zoom in the video so that we can see clearly?
Actually, Prof, you may pin the pback.ss so that the presentation appears bigger on your screen.
Oh.
Yes. Can you find the three dot button on the pback.ss? Upper right, top right. If you click the three dot, then you can find there's an option to click pin, and that will enlarge the video for the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to our second participant, Miss Nur Izzati binti Abdul Rahim from University Science Malaysia with her presentation title, Do Video Games Integrate or Ignore Slavery? Let's have a look.
Imagine the life of a slave, the torture and cruelty they experience, the harrowing brutality and violence that they have to endure. Imagine too the life of the slave master. How could someone be so cruel, punish, exploit, and gain pleasure from doing it? Could you imagine yourself doing that? Never, ever. But these are the narrative in the world's most popular games on slavery. The game industry has managed to attract millions of gamers, generating millions of profits. Well, why would someone, a single person, immerse himself in these harrowing realities of a slave? Here, this is where my research comes in. I use a cross-cultural framework to explore how players reach the immersive pleasure when playing the games. I explore the narrative used in slavery games, namely Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry and Playing History 2 Slave Trade from Canada and Denmark, and engross myself in the narrative. My findings? I found that a strong narrative as the pillar of a video game. Why? Because a good narrative will help players reach the immersive pleasure of traveling back in time to the 18th century to experience the tragic history of slavery. Video games allow players to be immersed in different identities and see what it's like to live life as another person. This might explain why slavery games become bestsellers and obtain higher scores of 8 in ratings. But again, how would someone take different identities and get involved in killing, punishing, exploiting the slave? My findings show that the slavery games most commonly present themselves as action-packed narrative by concentrating on the combat and the fight. No ideology, no symbols, no politics. Just the fighting and the challenge through the high quality graphics and visual of the world of virtual reality. My research is imperative as it highlights the horrifying notion of slavery in video games. It analyzes the fact that, like written works, video game could be another platform for players to learn about slavery and reflect on the perspective towards modern day slavery. Despite the technological advancement and modernity, we still practice the past with the dreadful history of slavery. Today, the United Nations estimates that more than 40 million people worldwide are the victims of modern day slavery, which contextualizes itself in forms of human trafficking, forced sexual exploitation, and child labor. Now, slavery games could further play its role in raising awareness towards modern day slavery to really make us appreciate the value and the feeling of what it's like to be free. Thank you. On to our third presenter for today. We have Miss Rishaya Rubini Murukesu from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, UKM, with her presentation titled Aging with Resilience, the We Rise Intervention.
Just imagine, you're slowly losing the ability to move around, or losing the ability to remember your way back home, or worse, losing both abilities at the same time. Maintenance of both physical and mental function is important in preserving resilience of the aging human body. Cognitive frailty is a syndrome affecting the elderly, which is a combination of frailty and cognitive decline, which impairs independent functioning. Current research suggests that it can be reversed. My study was conducted among elder people of lower socioeconomic status, the B40 category, who are more prone to poor health and yet often neglected in health promotion programs. The We Rise intervention, which stands for Warga Emas, Resilient Mind and Muscle Exercise, is a multi-domain intervention comprising of exercise, cognitive stimulation, dietary counseling, and psychosocial support. I designed We Rise to be socially stimulating, simple, very low in cost, and most importantly, I wanted it to be super fun. We Rise first comprised of 12 weeks of community-based intervention. The exercise incorporated music and games. The cognitive stimulation component was originally designed and did not require reading or writing skills, as majority of our participants had less than primary level education. Malaysian culture was injected to a sense of familiarity and excitement. Dietary counseling focused on the Malaysian palate and local healthy food. Finally, psychosocial support was provided via instructor facilitation and through the participants themselves as they formed friendships and socialized within their peer group. The next 12 weeks was the We Rise at Home intervention with phone-based supervision to empower participants to be self-efficient. What did I discover then? Following 24 weeks of intervention, there was significant improvement in the participants' physical fitness, memory and attention, as well as psychosocial well-being. Additionally, more than 70% of the participants no longer had cognitive frailty. The novelty of my study? We Rise is the first of its kind in providing evidence that a multi-domain intervention can reverse cognitive frailty and foster resilience among the elderly. We Rise is effective with a large social component that can be enjoyed by the aging population. I strongly believe that We Rise should be implemented as health promotion program in Malaysia. Confucius said, "Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." So, choose resilience, choose to be wise, choose to be strong, and choose We Rise. Thank you.
Now, moving on to our fourth presenter, Ms. Nagarubini Perempuan Paramasivam from University Malaysia Kelantan, UMK, with her presentation titled Hysteria Among the Malaysian Girls. Please.
Hi, have you ever wondered why hysteria rather happens to Malaysian girls? Do you know that 1 in 3 Malaysians have mental issues with highest prevalence among those aged 13 until 19 years, well as those from low-income families? Alright, now just imagine, while you are sitting in classroom, you heard your classmates shouting, screaming, frowning on the floor. What would be your reaction? I am very sure it will contagious to you, as if you see hysteria people, you have high probability to be possessed too. Well, this is what exactly happens among the Malaysian girls. The thing is, they are started to react and imitate as their friends. Literally, my research is to find out why hysteria happens among the Malaysian girls by using clinical psychology approach. Surprisingly, those girls are having emotions and anxiety problems, yet they blame ghosts for these symptoms. It sounds irrational, right? Yes, it is. Now, let's break the stigma of the misconception of the hysteria. The girls actually cannot express their feelings to anyone and suppress everything within themselves. At the one point, they are unable to control their emotions and release them in form of the shouting. I would like to notify you. Carrying the children with the stories on speaks is among the cause of the hysteria. Do you remember our parents always used to tell one story, and old Malay believed that the person's ghost hunts their graves for 7 days before departure? Fun! These kind of stories were permanently stored in their subconscious mind. So when they're listening to the ghost story, the brain is lighting up, which triggers them to remember more of the information they got when they were younger. This is resulted mass hysteria. However, people misunderstood and think this is caused by the supernatural power. The sad part is the affected girls left untreated by the medical professional and the shaman takes the role. Are the culture and the supernatural belief related and cause this misconception? But wait, just assume, what if every hysteria case ignored by the people merely think this is happening due to demonic power? The cases becomes mysterious, unsolved, and the ignorance is the real problem now. Thank you.
Now we're moving on to our fifth presenter, Ms. Hu Chi Yin from University Putra Malaysia UPM, with her presentation titled Enhancing Working Memory with the Music-Based App. Please welcome.
We perform cognitive tasks many times a day, like when we read, drive, or chat. And for every cognitive task, we need something called working memory. That's the temporary storage in our brain in which we slot information while performing a task. The problem with working memory is that it has limited capacity. When it's filled, we cannot accept new information until we transfer it to long-term memory. Unfortunately, there is no way to increase the capacity of working memory. But the good news is that we can train it to process and keep information more effectively. For example, we remember a handful number better by chunking the 10 digits into 3 groups. Another method is a repetition of tasks, which helps the brain process and transfer information quickly. There are commercial memory training apps already in the market, but they are expensive, pretty intensive, and limited to digits and shapes. So I developed something different, a fun music-based mobile app. My app does many things, but I will highlight a feature designed to boost the use of chunking and repetition. There is a visual game where players have to listen and look at the lit-up music notes on a virtual keyboard, then recall and play them forwards and backwards in the correct sequence. It's similar to remembering a handful number, just that the app uses music notes. When the players repeat their efforts, the repetition effect occurs and their working memory improves. To test my app, I put 60 children into 2 groups. One group used a commercially available app and the other group used mine. After 10 sessions, the children went through a working memory assessment. As expected, both groups did better in the post-test than in the pre-test. But what was rewarding was that the group using my app not only enjoyed the musical task, they could also remember digits and shapes better, although it did not train them for that. These results suggest that the children could transfer skills involved in one area of cognition to another. Unlike previous research, I have gone on further to observe qualitatively how children engage with the app. By recording their behavior and using sequential analysis, I found that children with high and low working memory play games differently and respond differently to correct answers. These observations will help me to address different learning styles in the future. Meanwhile, I have published my app on Google Play Store for free so that users like you and I can benefit from it at any time. I hear that it's getting used more and more, and that is music to my ears.
Now on to our last presenter for the first round of social science category from Miss Lai Chin Siong, University of Technology Malaysia, UTM, with a presentation titled Misconception in Physics, No More with Concept Cartoon. Please welcome.
Hi, I'm Lai. I have learners to overcome their fears and difficulties in learning physics. On this premise, today I would like to introduce you an interesting teaching tool, concept cartoon. Probably you ever heard that Malaysian students tend to run away from STEM subjects, especially physics. But do you know that research says that one of the main reasons of this problem is caused by misconception? I think that most of us know who Isaac Newton is. However, we didn't understand or we misunderstand what he said. The Newtonian physics. Don't agree? Look at this. There's a boy accidentally pushed two vases drop down at the same time from the same height. Vase A is bigger size and heavier, while vase B is smaller and lighter. Some cartoon characters are arguing which vase we should drop first. Albert thinks that the heavier one should drop first. Well, Corina has an opposite idea, should be the lighter one. Bernard thinks that there's no differences in the dropping time. So if this question is discussed in the class discussion may be like this. I think the heavier one. Heavier object grow faster, right? For gravity. So Albert is correct. I don't agree with you, it should be the lighter one. Light object move faster, right? How can the big size lorry run faster than a motorcycle? It's impossible. So Corina is correct. No, both of you are wrong. They should be dropped at the same time. Interesting, isn't it? The more the discussion you join, the more the new concept you get, the more the misconception can be detected and overcome. In order to identify the efficiency of concept cartoon, I did a research. I designed 5 cartoon worksheets. I did pre-process. I ran data analysis. And you know what? The result is statistically significant. This means that concept cartoon can help to increase students' level of understanding. It can also help to detect the misconception, overcome it, as well as knowing the reason behind the misconception. Concept cartoon can also help to create motivation in learning physics, making the learning of physics fun and enjoyable. And lastly, it helps the teacher to reduce the class management problem. Thus, my research has given a new view of the teaching of learning and physics. Oh yeah, so what is the answer for this question? They will drop at the same time. Do you get it?
Ladies and gentlemen, so that marks the end of our first round for the social science category. We still have another round, but first we will take a 10 minutes break for the judges to deliberate on the participants' presentations. For participants, please remain in the breakout room and refrain from entering the judges' breakout room. To all judges, kindly proceed to the judges' breakout room. Thank you.
Liego is a platform for us as a researcher to share our findings and apply directly to people with disabilities.
This program is run under UM Center for Prosthetics and Orthotics Engineering, and Bangi Industrial Training and Rehabilitation Center, PLPP. In this program, we focused on transferring fundamental-based to community-based research output, which are mainly on three different aspects, which are teaching and rehabilitation, social and rehabilitation, and sport and rehabilitation. In teaching and rehabilitation, the students from PLPP were exposed to the rehabilitation teaching process at the center. In this phase, we utilized our research output directly to the user that include the design of new ankle-foot orthosis joint, residual limb size measurement using bioscanner and biosculptor technology, gait biomechanics for prosthetic user with motion analysis system, and virtual rehabilitation for upper limb amputee. Besides, the student from University of Malaya were given a chance to visit and interact with a student from PLPP to get an idea on how the actual rehabilitation world looks like.
The youth from PLPP Bangi may not get the real opportunity to live the real life as presented today. So through this program, we are exposing them with our ideas.
And through University of Malaya for the world of understand.
In social and rehabilitation, our team has visited Tan Razak Rehabilitation Center Melaka, the first rehabilitation complex in the world that combined medical and vocational rehabilitation in one health institute. Starting from October 2017, we had organized sitting volleyball friendly match between University Malaya and PLPP students and staff. The event worked well with a good cooperation between the institution.
The roots of our business are more than 175 years old. When our flagship journal Nature was first published 150 years ago, only a third of the world's population were able to read. Today, the majority can. Nearly 2/3 of the world's population lived in extreme poverty. Now, most are poverty-free. And average life expectancy was just 38, where today that number is over 70. Yet despite this progress, inequalities still remain, and the world faces new and significant societal challenges, such as climate change, universal access to healthcare, and quality education. Progress will only be possible because of the vital role that scientists, researchers, academics, and educators play. And in a world where truths are verified by social media clicks and fake news is easily spread, they are more reliant than ever on being able to share their insight and trust their sources. This is where we play such a pivotal role. As custodians of the academic record, we aim to safeguard the independence and veracity of research, helping researchers to trust and build upon the discoveries that have gone before. Each experiment, every finding, taking its place in the network of discovery and enabling researchers to stand on the shoulders of giants. Let's see how that works in practice. This is Nature's publication record, 150 years of interconnected research, represented by the majority of Nature's papers. A snapshot of the ever-growing web of collaboration and discovery that is science. Let's take Watson and Crick's seminal paper on the structure of DNA as an example. Here it is. Below it is every paper that it referenced. Not just Nature papers, every paper. Then every paper that those papers referenced, and so on. Above it are all the papers that built their work based on Watson and Crick's discovery. Every paper has its own story, its own unique network, and each of those networks connects to others to form a whole. Every paper in every field, playing their part in the global process of research and discovery. And with these discoveries come advances, not only in science, but in medicine and healthcare, in the arts and social sciences, and progress across all professional fields. At Springer Nature, we aim to ensure that fundamental knowledge can be found, verified, widely understood by those that need it, and then used. In the laboratory, in the field, in the classroom, in the hospital, and even in the driving school. We take our global responsibility to our communities, employees, and society extremely seriously, with trusted and respected brands, a footprint in more than 50 countries, and nearly 10,000 employees around the world, from editors and science writers to analysts, developers, and production specialists. We work in local offices, close to our communities, where our knowledge and experience can make a difference. One Springer Nature, working together and using our scale and influence for the greater good. Setting ourselves bold ambitions as a business to be more diverse, to do all we can to protect our planet, to bring together researchers, policymakers, and practitioners to accelerate progress towards the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, and continue to lead the way in opening up research, ensuring that the world makes as much progress in the next 150 years as it did in the last, improving and enriching our lives, and helping to protect our planet for future generations. Springer Nature, opening doors to discovery.
The people who built Springer Nature have been opening doors to discovery since the beginnings of modern science. The research we publish.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're still waiting for our moderator to join in the breakout room. We'll start once Prof. Ghazali is in the breakout room. Welcome back to the second round of the session for the social science category. So our first presenter for this round is Muhammad Irhamuddin bin Ibrahim from University Islam Antarabangsa Malaysia, UIAM, with his presentation title, Enhancing Collaboration for Future Halal Studies Graduate Employability. Please welcome.
$1.9 billion Muslims around the world spent $2 trillion in 2021 on food, health supplement, medicines, cosmetic, modest fashion, tourism, Islamic media, and recreation. All were affected by Sharia compliant and halal consuming needs. According to the Halal Development Corporations, the global Muslim-friendly industry market will be valued $5 trillion in 2030. This massive Islamic economy should employ thousands of graduates, especially Malaysian Halal Studies graduates, right? Halal Studies graduates are those who have graduated from the Halal industry management courses in higher learning institutions. Apparently, the challenge faced by universities nowadays is graduate unemployment. Labor Force Malaysia 2021 report indicated that the unemployment rate climbed to 4.8% in June 2021, which 768.7 thousand unemployed people. In my primary data, a survey of 2,180 Halal Studies graduates from 3 universities showed that only 1,482 graduates managed to get hired in the Muslim-friendly industry. Only 60.42% of them are employed. According to the International Labour Organizations, figure below 70% are seen as unhealthy labor market. Hence, the problem here is the mismatch between the supplies and the demands of the halal industry workforce that contributes to the Halal Studies graduates' unemployment. This situation gives a negative impression to our nation's higher education. In my thesis, I'm working strategically to enhance a collaboration for future Halal Studies graduate employability and analyze the critical roles of the government and the halal industry stakeholders in providing Halal Studies graduate with career opportunities. The significance of my research, I'm proposing a framework of partnership in the halal education ecosystem between the government, industry players, and higher learning education institutions. We can use this study to re-evaluate the quality of the halal study courses in order to produce highly employable Halal Studies graduates and keep flourishing the Muslim-friendly industry. Thank you.
Okay, on to our second presenter, Nivakan Sritaran from University Malaysia Sarawak Unimas, with the presentation title, An Investigation into the Factors that Impact upon Corporate and Individual Taxpayers' Compliance Behavior. Please welcome.
Tax or taxation. This term always panics us in many ways. Honestly speaking, this is not true. Collection of taxes is very important for a country because income taxes are the most dominant contributor to the national revenue. In Malaysia, we have been experiencing a huge problem in taxes. Our tax gap is increasing. At the meantime, our national income also increasing. How the relevant authority, which is the Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, going to tackle this problem? What strategy they're going to choose it? Normally, Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia conduct tax audits and tax investigation. This really cost them high. But how many of them are successful is a question. Here, my research comes out. I found a nexus between personal taxes and corporate taxes. Meaning to say, the corporate tax compliance decision-making are done by an individual who are the tax affairs officers. When the tax affairs officer has a non-compliance behavior of his or her personal taxes, he or she apply the same principle towards the corporate taxes as well. To collect the data, I conduct survey questionnaire. What my finding shows is most of the social factors influencing tax affairs officers' personal tax compliance. I also found that their personal tax compliance behavior influence their corporate tax compliance behavior as well. Next week, I am going to meet Inland Revenue Board of Malaysian officers to show my finding so that they could reveal their comment on my finding. That become the supplementary data collection. I am expecting and anticipating a long-term outcomes. First, my research will ensure that the number of successful audit rates are increasing. At the same time, it will ensure that the national revenue will increase by decreasing the tax gap. Finally, this research will support the United Nations sustainable goal, which is ensuring the sustainability of economy.
Okay, moving on to our third presenter, Farah Atikah binti Saari from University Malaysia Kelantan, UMK, with the presentation title, Conservation of Old Shop Houses in the Formation of the Image and Identity of Kota Bharu as Islamic City. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Farah Atikah binti Saari. My title is Conservation of Old Shop Houses in the Formation of the Image and Identity of Kota Bharu as Islamic City. So the number one is how the image and identity of Islam that exists in the old shop houses. So based on MPKB BRI Kelantan Local Plan 2035 replacement, the development pattern has made the features of traditional Kelantan architecture disappear and diminish in the MPKB BRI area. So I use the structure observation for facade of the old shop houses, roof, upper facade, lower facade, and walkway. So for Lubang Haider 1984, we can see the sensitivity of the environment, suitable size and scale, local culture identity. The results show that local culture identity is not sustained. Number 2 is how the design criteria for the development of shop houses in obtaining the image and identity of Islamic city. The development and the impact of the township have resulted in most of the building being demolished to make room for new development, while some of them have been left without proper care, followed by Muhammad Ashraf 2013. Structure interview and PKB local plan document research. So followed by the interview, we can see the proposed urban design and visual quality, recommendation for the conservation of building uniformity in terms of height, recommendation for the use of color, cheerful color, mural, calligraphy, writing, and proposed of architecture screening. Results show that the design and visual quality is most important to show identity of Islamic city. And then number 3 is how is the method of conservation of old shop houses that conform to the philosophy of the formation of the image and identity of Islamic city. They are historic buildings that are underserved and not well preserved and restored, followed by Jamal 2017. So we can get the data from the document research. We see the conservation concept, heritage building conservation guideline from Department of National Heritage 2017. So number 1 is originality of building material. Number 2 is originality of carpentry, design, and originality of construction work. And lastly, layout authenticity. So the result is authenticity is the best practice to the formation of Islamic city at Kota Baru. That's all. Thank you.
All right. So our fourth presenter for the second round for social science category is Chang Guide Heng from University Malaysia Sabah UMS with the presentation titled Intention to Stay Among Employees with Big Five, PE Feat and Organizational Citizenship Behavior. Please welcome.
What? He didn't come to work again after do all his job? Have you ever felt burdened with work that doesn't belong to you? Are you the kind of person who's willing to go the extra mile to extra job? If your answer is yes to the second question, then you are exhibiting OCB. OCB stands for Organization, Citizenship Behavior, which is the willingness of one individual to go far beyond their job requirements without promises of attractive rewards. If your colleague is absent from work and you're there to help a little, you are exhibiting OCB. If you're attending to a newcomer in your organization, you are also exhibiting OCB. OCB promotes individual and organizational outcomes which are positive, such as increased commitment and productivity levels. However, it has its downsides too. There will be like negative workplace behavior and also higher work stress. In my study, various factors are expected to reduce negative outcomes of OCB while increasing and enhancing the engagement of OCB. Firstly is personality traits. If you're the kind of person who's extroverted, reliable, cooperative, emotionally stable, and open to experience, then you're most likely to demonstrate OCB. Second is competency. The combination of your skills, personality, and knowledge enables you to perform work superiorly and engage in extra role behaviors. Third is the compatibility between you and your working groups. If you're in a group of people who share the same kind of values and missions, then it's very natural for you and your colleagues to help each other to complete each other's tasks when the need arises. Fourth is between you, your supervisor, and your organization. When you share the same kind of values, missions with your supervision and your organization, your supervisor, your commitment and sense of belonging in the workplace increases. Therefore, you tend to take extra tasks to further support organizational goals without expecting rewards. Ladies and gentlemen, with the constant change and the nature of work and organization, the role of employees and their engagement in OCB becomes more and more important. Ultimately, organizations will rely more on individuals who could contribute to successful change themselves, regardless of their formal job requirements. Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to our fifth presenter, Yung Su Mei from University Pendidikan Sultan Idris UPSI with the presentation titled Dyscalculia. Please welcome.
Maybe you have heard about dyslexia, but have you ever heard about dyscalculia? If dyslexia is a learning disability in reading, then dyscalculia is a learning disability in maths. In Greek, this means disabilities, whereas calcular means calculation. So, dyscalculia is defined as a specific learning disability which affects the learning of arithmetic. Imagine this situation. While a group of children are playing board games, there is a child who cannot participate well just because he cannot recognize the quantities of the dots on the dice. This is more intense in children with special educational needs. Children with dyscalculia are often born without number sense, which make it difficult for them to recognize numbers. The numbers are like dancing to them. So, these children are often left behind in math classroom. They cannot do even simple arithmetic. In my study, I have designed and developed a dyscalculia module to improve the basic arithmetic skill. This module includes a teacher's manual, pupils' exercise book, PowerPoint games, and number sense interactive games. Simple visual techniques had been introduced, such as dots, lines, circles, and squares were used to assist this pupil to master in the core skill. 30 lesson plans with 12 different techniques had been introduced in my module. Students are given opportunities to build on their number sense through the fun interactive games. With this dyscalculia module, not only the dyscalculic pupils become more confident in solving mathematical problems, teachers and parents are more appreciative of their dyscalculic child, providing support to the dyscalculic community, therefore leading to improving a friendly environment in an inclusive, equity, and diversity society, which is in line with UNESCO's belief that every learner matters. Thank you.
All right, so our final presenter for this round is Saida Farhana Sarkam from University Science Islam Malaysia USIM with the presentation titled Appropriate Technology, It Takes Two to Tango. Please welcome.
Imagine that you have to carry a water container on your head and walk for 10 kilometers in a day. Then suddenly, one man came and handed over a water roller for you. You just need to roll the water container on the ground and say goodbye to the pain on your head and shoulder. This is an example of an appropriate technology. Appropriate technology is a technology that is being developed by technology generator to solve users' problems and fulfill users' needs. Appropriate technology has potential to empower users and solve fundamental problems. In a developing country like Malaysia, the government spent 15,000 million ringgit Malaysia annually for research and development of technologies. Can you imagine what if the technologies developed are not appropriate? Yes, it will lead to the waste of money, time, people, and the worst case is it may cause death of the users. That is why I studied appropriate technology development and transfer. The technologies that were being developed by technology generators should be successfully transferred to the targeted users, adopted by the users, and bring benefits to the users. Specifically, my study aims to identify the characteristics of appropriate technology to serve as a guideline for technology generators to develop more technologies in the future. In my study, I have interviewed 10 technology generators from public research institutions in Malaysia who have successfully transferred technologies to the users. From my study, it was found out that first, appropriate technology development and transfer requires support from all stakeholders, including the technology generators institutions, the related agencies, the policymakers, and also the targeted users. Second, the technology has to be appropriate for the targeted users and appropriate for the technology generators. In developing a technology, besides thinking of the usability and usefulness of the technology to the users, technology generators have to ensure that the development of the technology is within their capability. In conclusion, This study highlights the need for the technology development to fit both the capability of the technology generator and usefulness to the users. Identification of this emerging team extends understanding on the development and characteristics of appropriate technology, which is currently centered exclusively on usefulness for the users, and further producing the first guideline for appropriate technologies. This knowledge charts the path for focusing on mutual fulfillment of both technology generators and users in achieving appropriateness of technology. Thus, it takes two to tango.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we will take a 10 minutes break for the judges to deliberate on the participants' presentations. Please remain in this breakout room and refrain from entering the judges' breakout room. To all judges, kindly proceed to the judges' breakout room. Thank you.
A better tomorrow. We build on this legacy with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all.
We work to support researchers across the globe as they tackle urgent societal needs, connecting them with practitioners in policy and business who desperately need those insights to improve the world.
We work to amplify the discoveries in our multidisciplinary books, journals, and cutting-edge science journalism, opening up and disseminating data and insights for those who need it most.
We work to innovate by investing in new services and technologies, such as machine learning to identify SDG-relevant content, providing insights and tools to empower our customers and stakeholders to deliver.
We take responsibility for the environmental and societal impacts of our own business operations, cutting our carbon footprint, working towards greater inclusion and diversity, and forging strong links with the communities we serve.
With 2030 fast approaching, we work to deliver real progress in addressing the most urgent societal needs, because we are a company of researchers,
engineers, writers,
communicators,
and leaders
committed to advancing discovery for the benefit of future generations.
Hi, I'm Karen Low, the founder of Malaysia Women Marathon. I am 51 this year. I have run 63 marathons. I have done the ultra marathons like 100 kilometers. In 2017, I was diagnosed with cancer.
I'm Nantini, I'm 33 years old and I'm a cervical cancer survivor. I'm a mother for 2 boys and I'm also a baker, an honor for Shani Baking.
You know, when you're told that you have cancer, you don't really understand what it means. It's just a shock for you because for me, I was very healthy, I was very active, I was very fit. And again, as I said, being fit does not mean you're healthy. The first time I had to go to see an oncologist was even worse because the oncologist's office room was very far into the ward and I had to walk quite a distance, and that journey was really, really lonely. Wouldn't want people to go through that. Yes.
I was having a very bad bleeding, okay, and it was a non-stop bleeding and hair losses, and also I was getting thinner and thinner. From 65 kg, I dropped until 45 kg. When I received the call from Miss Gayatri, I was on the way to a temple. We are going to the temple, nothing will going to happen, you will be safe. Then only I started to cry, and I was like, I'm going to die. As I remembered, when I was young, there's no medication for cancer. So what I thought is I will die.
The first time I went to get my chemo was something that only a person who's gone through chemotherapy will realize, because the first time is always something that is very special to you. It's just like, you know, your first marathon run or your first baby or your graduation. So it was an experience that I had to face. Perhaps God had a message for me to bring myself to know how it is like so that I could relate to people and maybe share with them more experiences on how it's like.
Professor Wu, she told me that I need to take about 25 to 27 fractions of radiation, 5 cycles of chemotherapy, and 4 times of brachytherapy. My husband paid everything because I'm not under insurance lah. So what happens, each and every time we went, we will spend about 200 ringgit for our transportation from here, from my house, over to PPUM. We will move up from here early in the morning, 5 o'clock. We will stay there for about 18 hours or 16 hours. We will be there. We will be only coming back home about 5 p.m. or 6 p.m.
It took her a while to convince me that chemotherapy was the only treatment for me. I was very adamant not to go through chemo, having heard all sorts of stories about chemotherapy and a bad effect on a person, the healthy cells. So when you ask me what would I have done different in terms of chemo, I will not tell people avoid that. I would tell people go ahead, do the chemo. It's nothing that you should be afraid of. A lot of people say, chemo, tak payah buat lah. We were so ignorant about it. Yeah, we didn't read enough. We didn't know how it would affect the body. We just knew from other people say, the chemo is so strong that it's going to kill all your good cells in the body also.
Women need to get the information from the right places and from the right people. Sometimes a misconception or perception of what the treatment may involve may actually cause them a lot of fear and anxiety. Therefore, as a doctor, it is important to walk the journey with them and to make sure they have all the information and support that they need.
At one point, my boss called me and said, "You can't work anymore. Please quit your job." I'm the one and only person who was working because my husband is handicapped. So I need something to release my stress. That was the time where I start to bake. And we open up a company which is called as Shani Baking. And I got lots of orders from my previous colleagues, my friends, my family.
So I'm the type to find running a meditative mode. I'm like, when I run, then I'm thinking of solutions. So my husband said, "Are you sure you want to run?" "Oh, I have to run. If I don't run, then I'm not going to feel good." So I actually literally do 2 to 3 km. Yeah. And I went back to work also. I just didn't want to feel it was going to bring me down. I wasn't going to let it defeat me.
So what happens is when I go to my interviews, they will be giving a form and they say that, "Do you have any sick or not?" There's one column where they will ask, "Do you have any sick?" So I can't lie to them. So I need to be genuine. So I'll just mention that I'm a survivor cancer. I actually pass in all the exams and everything. The only word is destroy my whole, what we call, my career. So that was the time where I hate myself. Why am I like this? Why I got the sick? Why not other people never get the sick? But my husband is there. He's there. I can't, I will never ever, I'll never ever say thank you. I cannot say any word lah. I can't describe anything about him. He's the person who was there for me. He's a handicap, but then he done more than a normal person.
The people don't understand what cancer means and the different.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now on to our third round for the semi-final for the social science category. Introducing our first participant for the last round of social science category. Dewi Suribayu binti Nordin Selat from University Technology Mara, UiTM, with the presentation title, Riding the CEO Influences Firestorm and Netizens' Perception on Brand Equity. Please welcome.
Datuk Sri Vida of Vida Beauty, Datuk Alif Shukri of D Herbs. What do these people have in common? Well, they are CEO influencers. Although famous for their titles as CEOs, they also have a high number of social media following. However, being in the limelight makes it easy for them to be the subject of controversy. You see, when an issue has blown out of hand and mostly collected negative comments online, it is called a social media firestorm. And netizens absolutely love a good firestorm. Within minutes, you get tweets, Instagram stories, and articles calling you out. Previous studies have largely focused on identifying social media firestorms, but there is a lack of data from the netizens' perspective. This is where my research comes in. My research bridges the gap between netizens' perspective and CEO influencers' business perspective. Using in-depth interviews, netizens were asked about why do they participate in social media firestorms and what do they want to achieve by doing so. On the other hand, CEO influencers were asked about how they have managed the crisis in the past. So, what have I found so far? The one common theme that netizens seems to agree on is that social media firestorms is seen as a way for them to raise awareness about a certain wrongdoing. And by participating, they are able to pressure these CEO influencers to change their behavior. Netizens do not want to support businesses that are headed by CEO influencers who keep making the same mistakes. Now, what about the CEO influencers themselves? Well, it's found that it's important for them to address the issue as soon as possible, be it with an apology or a justification to their actions. This helps to settle the firestorm before it spreads, as it is not good for their brand image in the long run. Interestingly, CEO influencers also found that the increased discussion around their brand actually introduces people to their business who have not known them from before. Now more than ever, a company's brand equity can be its most valuable asset. By understanding netizens' perspective, businesses are able to extinguish the fire before it spreads. Like a true firestorm, we don't know where the wind will blow the flames. It only takes one negative comment, one decisive crisis to burn down years of branding efforts. Thank you.
So now we are moving on to our second presenter for this round, Nur Izyani Azhar from University Tun Hussein on Malaysia, with the presentation title Coping Responses During Natural Disaster Among Vulnerable Groups in Malaysia. Please welcome.
Hi, how are you today? How did you all cope with the disaster that happened in Malaysia recently? The flash flood, the pandemic COVID-19. How did you all cope with that physically and mentally? Isn't that hard? Have you ever heard about coping capacity? Coping capacity is the ability to cope with natural hazard or disease outbreaks, which includes preparedness before disasters, cope during disasters, and recovery from disasters. So, United Nations of Disaster Risk Department has come out with a coping capacity index. But what is the problem with coping capacity index? The problem is it is just an index, and indices just a proxies, just the numbers. They cannot fully reflect a more complex reality. Coping Capacity Index provides a rough overview of countries' level of coping capacity. So, in this study, a more comprehensive coping capacity assessment incorporating social variables such as socio-demographic factors, socio-economic status, cultural belief and religious practices, as well as psychosocial factors, would certainly warrant a greater and deeper impact on disaster management. This coping assessment should acquire dynamic features to be adaptable to various hazard or disease. This study would greatly emphasize the development of new knowledge in the field of sociology in disaster management. I believe that coping capacity assessment will certainly help vulnerable people by raising public awareness, training a community, and empower them. Lastly, it is hoped that this particular coping capacity study can contribute to implement the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, thus turn the UN 2030 agenda a reality. Thank you.
All right, so moving on to our third presenter, Nur Hazwani binti Jatin from University Malaysia Pahang UMP with the presentation title, Making Writing Awesome with Awe, Automated Writing Evaluation. Please welcome.
A teacher once said, if my bank account grew as quickly as the number of papers that I need to mark daily, I would be a very rich teacher. Pity that teacher never became rich. Instead, she's all burnt out. Who wouldn't be when you've got a stack of 50 or 100 papers to go through and another stack of quizzes to finish and lessons to plan? Mind you, grading is not just slapping grades of A, B, or C. No, it is just merely drawing circles, underlying words, and providing typical remarks. Good job, well done, improve your writing, but more. We need to read through each essay, check content, the use of language, organization, and overall coherence and cohesion, and then provide feedback. But what kind of feedback? There should be prompt, constructive, personalized, and individualized. Maybe we need 48 hours a day to truly carry the burden entrusted to us. Imagine that pressure. From the student's perspective, it is another story to tell. To them, writing is not exciting. There are just too many subcomponents they are just getting familiar with. They struggle to organize and use the mechanics of writing. Finding the right vocabulary to express an idea is a real challenge. Then when they are done writing, how long do they need to wait for the feedback? Well, it is obvious that they need help in the writing process and they need feedback to improve, but not just any feedback, but immediate ones. Needless to say, they're just as stressed out. Both teachers and students need assistance. One to ease the tedious marking and the latter to write better in order to excel in academics and communication. My research seeks to address these two challenging issues using automated writing evaluation, or AWE, which uses artificial intelligence, or AI, to score and respond to essays. By examining the impact of AWEs on students' writing performance as well as creativity and exploring the mechanism at work here, I wish to develop a theoretical model which will help educators and students integrate AWEs into the classroom effectively. This will dramatically ease the burdens of teachers and students. Teachers can now teach focusing on content, delivery, and creativity, and students get feedback within seconds. I hope in the future, even the teachers don't get rich marking, at least with AWE, the experience is a little more awesome and enriching. All right, so now moving on to our second last presenter for this round is Wan Fariza Azima binti Cik Azman from University Malaysia Kelantan UMK with the presentation title Bottom 40 Next Generation Model for Sustainable Entrepreneurship Post-COVID-19 Crisis in Malaysia. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, ladies and gentlemen. The COVID-19 pandemic not only caused a global health crisis, but also caused a financial emergency. The most vulnerable group is P40 SMEs, because they are those with limited financial resources. In such circumstances, inclusive solutions is potential or urgently needed to meet their financial needs. Meanwhile, according to World Bank, Malaysia is expected to achieve high economic status in 2024. Thus, one of the 12 Malaysia plans is to increase the B40 to the M40 group level. Therefore, it is important to break this fortune B40 through sustainable entrepreneurship strategy as a prerequisite towards developing a high-income country. Along with IR 4.0, people are more aware to technologies such as fintech. The generation that is most exposed to this technology future who are characterized as hyper-connected technology transacting online every day, are constantly reinventing themselves to the new way of thinking. Therefore, these people is the most relevant group to adopt this model. By integrating all these statements, my PhD to study on the B40 next generation model for sustainable entrepreneurship to take advantage to the rapid growth and venture into Islamic fintech industry, which receive increased attention to reduce the impediments such as destructive performance due to Sharia non-compliance in part of striving citizens to meet their financial needs. According to the MDEC Islamic Fintech Report 2021, Malaysia is ranked first to the world by only 26 companies. Thus, this research is designed to use mixed methodological approach by using entrepreneurship orientation, intention, leadership, mediating by strategic competitiveness by using RBT and technology acceptance model to implement the model. In conclusion, by by addressing the entrepreneurship, this study is response to the SDG 8, while in line with SDG 20 S30 and KIGA, which links to the 21st globalization and IR4 concept. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so our last presenter for the social science category, Chua Ki Peng from University Pendidikan Sultan Idris UPSI with the presentation title, My Dialogue Kopitiam Module. Please welcome.
Imagine yourself being in a kopitiam where there are a lot of noises of people chit-chatting happily with each other in this country. You will hear the sounds of many languages, Malay, Chinese, Tamil, and so on. Indeed, Malaysians are multicultural society. Therefore, the need to learn another language, such as Chinese language, is a common situation for the pluralistic society, mainly because communication will be limited in the society only master their own native language. Chinese language has been gaining popularity as a second language due to economics and business. However, many of the textbooks give more emphasis on the reading and writing skills, and less focus is given to the listening and speaking skills. So, the challenge is to create a Chinese-speaking environment for non-native students to practice their listening and speaking skills in school. This is where my PhD research can contribute that project-based and game-based learning for engaging students in learning language. Therefore, collaboration, communication skills, creativity, technology, and so on will be integrated into development of my Dialogue Kopitiam module. Topics and activities contained in my Dialogue Kopitiam module will surround the daily life of students. Students will be using technological tools, that is using their smartphone and the advanced apps to create a final project of video recording. This fun and innovative way of learning will increase the interest, motivation, and involvement of students to be able to master the skills. Finally, my Dialogue Kopitiam module provides an opportunity for students to simulate Kopitiam ambience, allowing them to practice Chinese as second language while cultivating 21st century skills. Thank you.
right, so ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a 20 minutes break for the judges to deliberate on the participants' presentation. Please remain in the breakout room and refrain from entering the judges' breakout room. So to all judges, kindly proceed to the judges' breakout room. Thank you.
And the first time my children heard that I had cancer, they cried because they thought they were going to lose me. And the first thing that we need to be doing is to be brave, actually, to be brave for the people around you. It's not something that it's easy to do, but being brave shows that they know you are ready to fight the disease, and they know that we will be doing anything that will include them to help you. So it is very important that we get people to be by our side emotionally so that we can get this battle against the cancer done. When we say we, it's this people. I'm very grateful for friends. I'm very grateful for a few people like Professor Wu and Dr. Melda Belchin, who actually introduced me to Professor Wu. And these are the girls' support. We call them the women's support. And that matters a lot because eventually you will also lend that support to other women.
Yeah, these two, and you know what? These little ones, okay? My elder one, this boy, he don't know anything about my sickness. Until this year only he got to know that I'm not well. Why are you crying? Nothing to cry. And this one.
As a cancer survivor, cervical cancer sometimes can be eliminated through screening. And we look forward to that so that the younger generation or next generation girls do not have to face what we go through.
The reason why I never do pap smear is because it's very painful. But what I will advise all the women out there is, now we already have a new technology, which is HPV testing. Okay, no woman should go through what I have gone through. Please do screening. We can prevent the cervical cancer.
So, as a doctor who looks after women with cervical cancer, one of the most difficult things is to break the news when they are given the diagnosis, because you never know what's going through their minds and their personal lives. I think it's important that we be truthful, but yet be hopeful. Cervical cancer is now very treatable, and if detected early, is curable.
He's not running away out of fear. He's running away out of hope. That hope derived from the ones that he had lost. That hope confined inside for these people he had left behind. Hoping someday maybe he can change the world. Maybe he can make a difference. Maybe he can. If not for the past, there will never be a future. If not for those regrets, we will never learn from the failures. So keep on standing. No matter how life puts you down. keep standing back up. Because your past creates your future.
What is it that we come here to do? Here, where fear is afterthought, where every day brings a new spark, a new chance of building a future. Made by those willing to push boundaries, by those willing to work selflessly, because that is what we come here to do, to create a future, not just for ourselves, but for humanity. It is in the instruments we hold, the tools we use, the focus we apply, the books we learn from, the effort we put in, the tides we ride, and the advance we make, that we can wear these faces, proud faces, bright faces, hardworking faces. Our faces that radiate with happiness in the knowing that what we do here at University Malaya is learn, advance in our knowledge for the nation and for the development of humanity with integrity, with creativity, with open-mindedness. Whether it be through research or our education, we do it together. And when we succeed, we ride the waves again, creating newer, bolder ideas as a team and with like-minded individuals. Remembering our first day here and why we set out on this journey. Remembering who we do this for, the future we're building, the lives we're saving. This is us, and these are the victories worth celebrating over. This is what we come here to do.
Therapies for children with special needs are often expensive, and parents have no expertise to conduct these therapies themselves. Therefore, parents often leave their children at home. The model of ecotherapy focuses on conveying techniques and activities of ecotherapy via a hands-on workshop with parents. It's sustainable, as its techniques can be done continuously and free at any parks and This exercise is done by placing bean bags on both palms with the child's arms stretched outward. The child walks along the red-colored pathway, acting as the balancing beam guided by a parent. In the guide the ball exercise, the child has to guide the ball with their foot while walking, in between the arranged cones in a zigzag pattern. The Nature I Spy is a treasure hunt for items in various color, texture, and size. This helps stimulate the child's brain and confidence. The nature collage activity brings out the creative ability of children. This activity creates an artwork or craft in nature.
So dengan bengkel ni kita dapat pengalaman dan pengetahuan lah macam mana nak handle anak untuk pada masa akan datang lah.
Today, after joining this program, I feel that there are a lot of simple ways that we can do by ourselves without paying money go to outside to those specialists.
Macam tadi kita macam first tu kita akan belajar dari segi keseimbangan kat park. So macam kita boleh guna apa yang ada kat taman. So untuk yang kedua tu kita kita macam mengajar dia bermain bersama. Dan ketiga kita menggunakan minda untuk mencari benda. So benda tu memainkan setiap peranan dalam minda dia. Untuk kena benda, untuk banyak gunakan apa yang ada di sekitar tu. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be, this is...
I'm Wu Yin Ling. I'm a gynecological oncologist. One of the main things that is central to my practice is to ensure that we hear the voices of women. So in my work, I have to ensure that the research that we do, in particularly focusing on cancer for women, is that they will access care and it will be not cumbersome and it's not difficult for them. Not just in terms of side effects, but it must be acceptable for them culturally as well. Now we know that a test itself is not sufficient. It needs to come with proper education, it needs to come with proper follow-up. So when Program Rose was designed for the Malaysian women, we used the mobile phone and an e-platform technology to ensure that the results go to them effectively and quickly and in a way that does not inconvenience them at all. So when they have an abnormal result, they will receive a text message on their mobile phone giving them personalized instructions of where they need to have further follow-up. All young girls should be vaccinated against HPV. Women who are eligible for screening should be screened at least twice in their lifetime. And most importantly, those who screen abnormal should come forth for treatment. Malaysians should be informed that cervical cancer can now be eliminated.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to thank you all for attending today's event, the launch of the WHO Global Strategy for the Elimination of Cervical Cancer. We here at the University Malaya and the University Malaya Medical Center are very proud to be associated with this movement to eliminate cervical cancer globally, starting with Malaysia. Here in Malaysia, we have been involved in vaccinating young women and adolescents at schools with the HPV vaccine. We are now moving into expanding cervical cancer screening using HPV screening to replace Pap smear. With these efforts, we hope that Malaysia will be one of the first countries in the region to eliminate cervical cancer. Together, we can eliminate cervical cancer.
Cervical cancer is preventable. It is also curable if diagnosed and treated early. Yet, it is the fourth most common cancer among women around the world. So WHO has released the global strategy to eliminate cervical cancer on 17th of November. And the strategy is based on 3 pillars. Number 1, vaccination. Number 2, screening. And number 3, treatment. If this strategy is implemented, by 2050, we could avert about 5 million deaths and prevent 40% of new cervical cancers. So there is no reason why amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, we cannot continue to provide these life-saving, simple interventions for all the women around the world. Together, we can eliminate cervical cancer.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Having been a gynecologist who has treated so many gynecological and cervical cancer patients over the years, I'm excited that we are now at the brink of being able to eliminate cervical cancer. It is a big milestone to be able to address this as a country with all the different stakeholders. Together, we can eliminate cervical cancer.
Many Malaysian women are still diagnosed at stage 3 and stage 4 and dying needlessly due to cervical cancer. We need more partners to continue the work in Malaysia. Together, we can eliminate cervical cancer.
Through cost-effective, evidence-based intervention, including HPV vaccination of girls from screening via HPV testing and treatment of precancerous lesions, we can eliminate cervical cancer as a public health problem.
Hello, I'm Dr. Muhammad Azrif and I'm President of the Malaysian Oncological Society. I call upon all Malaysians to work together to eliminate cervical cancer.
Technology is giving us the tools to change lives. Together we can eliminate cervical cancer.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Shazli Shahruddin from Tuanku Mizan Military Hospital. Together we can eliminate cervical cancer.
My name is Ashish Pal. MST is recognizing this important milestone by reinforcing our commitment towards you to ensure that this shared goal becomes a new worldwide standard. Together, we can eliminate cervical cancer.
Cervical cancer ranks third most common cancer among women.
Taking action to meet the 90-70-90 targets will not only save lives, it will also offer immense economic and societal benefits.
Together, we can eliminate cervical cancer.
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 Together,
we can eliminate
cervical
cancer.
我们承诺一起消除宫颈癌。
Unjada nam gagapay-bay putrinoye hakamuyu.
Bersama kita hapuskan kanser pangkal rahim.
Bersama kita hapuskan kanser pangkal rahim.
Together,
we can eliminate
cervical cancer. Bersama kita hapuskan kanser pangkal rahim.
我们承诺一起消除宫颈癌。
Together, we can eliminate cervical cancer.
我们承诺一起消除宫颈癌。
我们承诺一起消除宫颈癌。
ஒன்றாக நாம் கர்ப்பப்பை வாய் புற்றுநோய் ஒழிக்க முடியும்.
Together, we can eliminate cervical cancer.
Together, we can eliminate cervical cancer.
Together, we can eliminate
Cervical cancer.
Together, we can eliminate cervical cancer.
On 17th of November 2020, the World Health Organization launched a global strategy to accelerate the elimination of cervical cancer. In Malaysia, I'm very proud to band together with fellow Malaysians in boldly declaring our commitment towards that call. Together, we can eliminate cervical cancer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our session in this breakout room. The moderator will now proceed to the main judge breakout room together with the judges for some final decisions. Audiences may now return to the main session for the finalist announcement. Please do not enter the judges breakout room to avoid being kicked out of the event. To all judges, kindly proceed to the main judge breakout room. We'll see you in a bit. Thank you.